He then called upon Nuba, the drought goddess, who dispersed the winds, rain, and fog, breaking Chiyou's weather magic and turning the tide of the battle. The records of the grand historian do not explicitly label him a god. They describe him as 兄弟81人皆兽身人与铜头铁额十杀十子 having 81 brothers, all with beast bodies and human speech, bronze heads and iron foreheads, eating sand and stones, a clear sign of superhuman bravery and strength. Headless, Xing Tian did not fall. Instead, he took his navel as his mouth and his nipples as eyes, holding a shield and wielding an axe, continuing to fight. According to the records of the grand historian, Huangdi oversaw a DIY bronze cauldron project at the foot of Mount Jing. As soon as he finished casting the cauldron and it was deemed ready, a delivery dragon suddenly shot down from the sky, turning the moment into a real-life dragon ride. It swooped down, carried him off, and zoomed straight into the clouds. Given that Huangdi is mythologized, why was he not counted among the 3 sovereigns, but instead placed among the 5 emperors? Hello everyone! In our previous video, we have mentioned the Banquan 之战, the battle of Banquan between Huangdi and Yandi, more precisely the Nice Yandi. To understand this battle, we must first look at the historical background of that time. As mentioned above, the tribe led by Huangdi was thriving and expanding rapidly at that time, while the Yandi tribe, by then in its 9th generation, was gradually declining. This was due to long-term reliance on farming, water shortages, natural disasters, and increasingly rigid internal social structures. Meanwhile, the Zhuolu tribe, armed with advanced copper smelting technology and formidable military strength, repeatedly raided neighboring tribes, including Yandis. Unable to defend itself, the Yandis tribe was further weakened. At this point, the Nice Yandi chose to attack Huangdi, probably for 2 reasons. First, he sought to defeat Huangdi and integrate his tribal forces, a move to shift the crisis, using an internal victory to rally strength against external threats. Second, he felt that the Huangdi's tribe would take advantage of his weakness to replace him as the core of the alliance. So he aimed to eliminate this potential internal rival before being completely weakened by the Zhuolu tribe. This was especially significant because the Yandi and Huangdi tribes shared a common origin, both descending from the Youjiao and Shaodian clans, as we already mentioned before. Yet this decision ultimately backfired. 皇帝叫熊皮貔貅出虎，以与炎帝战于阪泉之野，3战，然后得其志。皇帝 rallied clans that venerated the bear, grizzly, leopard, and tigers as totems, and fought the Yandi's tribe in the Banquan plan. After 3 battles, he prevailed. Instead of destroying Yandi's tribe, Huangdi, with his far greater ability to unify forces, brought it into his alliance. In short, the Battle of Banquan was an inevitable conflict over tribal alliance leadership. The external pressure from the Zhuolu tribe acted as a catalyst, pushing declining Yandi into a risky internal confrontation, ultimately accelerating Huangdi's rise to become the alliance leader. This encounter, which ended not in conquest but in unity, allowed the 2 civilizational threads to slowly converge and blend into one. It was this fusion that planted the earliest genetic code in the roots of the Huaxia nation. From then on, the terms Yan, Huang became far more than symbols of 2 tribes. they evolved into a spiritual totem. Since that time, the bonds of blood and the resonance of culture have quietly taken root in this land, laying the very foundation for the collective identity of later generations as Yan Huang Zizun, descendants of Yan and Huang. After the Battle of Banquan, the tribes of Huangdi and Yandi gradually merged, forming a more powerful alliance in the Yellow River Valley. As mentioned earlier, the Zhuolu tribe led by Chiyou rose to power around that time. Skilled in copper smelting, they possessed superior weapons and fierce warriors, and frequently raided other tribes. According to legend, they could also harness natural forces such as wind and rain. As a vast alliance composed of numerous clans and tribes in ancient times, Zhuolu derived its name from the character Jiu. This means 9, though literally meaning 9. In ancient usage, it did not refer to an exact number, but rather signified multitudes, indicating that Zhuolu was made up of many clans and tribes. Its supreme leader bore the title Chiyou. The name Chiyou did not refer to one specific individual. Instead, it functioned more like an official title for the overlord of the alliance, representing the authority ruling over the Zhuolu tribes. In other words, anyone who became the leader of the Zhuolu alliance was known as Chiyou. Most accounts of Zhuolu Zhitan, the Battle of Zhuolu, between the Yan-Huang alliance and Chiyou are rich in mystical wonder, centering on the divine clash between Huangdi and Chiyou. Leading the Zhuolu tribe, Chiyou summoned the wind god and the rain god to conjure storms and seek the fog, disorienting Huangdi's forces and defeating them repeatedly. Huangdi first sent Yilong to gather water for a counterattack, but this was blocked by Chiyou's storms. He then called upon Nuba, the drought goddess, who dispersed the winds, rain, and fog, breaking Chiyou's weather magic and turning the tide of the battle. In the fierce battle, the total armies of the Yan-Huang coalition fought bravely, ultimately defeating the Zhuolu tribe and killing Chiyou. If we strip away the mythological elements and restore a more realistic picture, in the early stages of the war, Chiyou's tribe gained the upper hand with superior equipment and tactics, inflicting repeated defeats on the Yan-Huang alliance, which later adjusted its strategy by strengthening internal coordination, integrating manpower and supplies, and securing logistics, innovating tactics to target the enemy's strengths. According to tradition, Feng Hou, a follower of Huangdi, created the Zhinan, the south-pointing chariot, to determine direction, luring the enemy onto open ground for a decisive battle and limiting their maneuverability, and sowing division within the Zhuolu alliance to win over smaller clans. Disaffected with Chiyou, gradually splitting his forces, thereby turning the tide and defeating his army into the end. Although Chiyou was defeated in the Battle of Zhuolu, his tribe possessed extraordinary military prowess. While records such as Shiji, records of the grand historian, do not explicitly label him a god, they describe him as 兄弟81人皆兽身人羽，铜头铁额，十杀十子, having 81 brothers, all with beast bodies and human speech, bronze heads and iron foreheads, eating sand and stones, a clear sign of superhuman bravery and strength. Later generations admired his warrior spirit, and the myth further endowed him with divine powers to command the wind god and rain master, summoning storms and rain. For these reasons, he became to be revered as Zhanshen, the god of war in Chinese mythology. Additionally, these records also portray the warriors of the Zhuolu tribe as grotesque figures, 铜头铁额，十杀十子, bronze heads, iron foreheads, eating sand and stones. Other ancient texts describe Chiyou as 人身流蹄，四目六手，耳鬓如剑戟，头有角。Human body, ox hooves, 4 eyes, 6 hands, sideburns sharp like swords, and halberds, and horns on his head. Features such as 铜头铁额 bronze heads and iron foreheads, 牛蹄 ox hooves, and 有角 horns may be linked to the Zhuolu tribe's ox totem worship, as well as the animal-shaped helmets or armor they wore in battle. These are symbolic expressions of the tribe's martial spirit. Meanwhile, 四目六手 4 eyes and 6 hands, and 耳鬓如剑戟 sideburns like swords, and halberds are mythological exaggeration of supernatural power. In essence, these non-human traits emphasize his imposing presence as the leader of a powerful tribe rather than depicting him as a male monster. He is closer to a god of war, blending divinity and wildness, designed primarily to highlight his formidable and extraordinary nature. Moreover, this portrayal reflects how ancient societies understood formidable opponents, using supernatural features to highlight their combat prowess. Not only acknowledges their strength, but also provides the mythological reasonable for legitimacy of Huangdi's victory over him, only by framing the rival as a nearly godlike demonic force. Could Huangdi's triumph be elevated from a mere military win to a secret deed ordained by heaven, in which the righteous conquer the evil? This naturally established his legitimate status as the common ruler of all under heaven. After the war, some of the Zhuolu people merged into Yan-Huang alliance, while others migrated south and gradually integrated with local ethnic groups. Their cultural ancestral heritage endured over time. Today, ethnic groups such as the Miao people in the Miaojiang region still revere Chiyou as a major ancestor, and this identity carries their collective memory of ancient times. The victory of the Yan-Huang alliance in the Battle of Zhuolu strengthened its authority and accelerated the culture and blood integration of various tribes. When it comes to the tribal conflict between Yandi and Huangdi, as well as the Battle of Zhuolu between the Yan-Huang alliance and Chiyou, the mythical figure Xing Tian cannot be overlooked. According to legend, he was a subordinate of Yandi and refused to accept his tribe's defeat, so he challenged Huangdi. Another account describes him as Chiyou's nephew. After Chiyou was defeated and killed, Xing Tian fought a fierce battle against Huangdi to avenge him. But either way, the outcome remains the same. Xing Tian challenged Huangdi. According to 山海经 海外西经 classic of mountains and seas, the west regions beyond the seas, 行天与地至此真神，地断其手，葬之于长阳之山，乃以乳为目，以其为口，操干戚以舞。Legend has it that during the battle, Huangdi took Xing Tian by surprise, struck suddenly, cut off his head, and buried it at Mountain Changyang. Headless, Xing Tian did not fall. Instead, he took his navel as his mouth and his nipples as eyes, holding a shield and wielding an axe, continuing to fight. Thus, Xing Tian was revered by later generations as the god of war for his unyielding spirit of fighting, even after losing his head. As we mentioned earlier, Chiyou is also honored as a god of war, so what exactly is the difference between these two gods of war? These two gods of war are like the most contrasting duo in the war god circle in modern terms. Xing Tian was the ultimate tough guy who lived by the motto, heads can roll, blood can flow, but momentum never yields. His head chopped off, he simply used his navel as a mouth to roar, his nipples as eyes to glare, wielding his axe wildly. Come on, let's fight! With this stubborn, I'll fight even in death spirit, he became a top-tier warrior god whose sole purpose is to inspire people to never back down. Chiyou, on the other hand, is the hardcore god of war himself, the undisputed leader of the Zhuolu tribes. In battle, he had a bronze head as if clad in a mechanical suit. He also invented swords, spells, axes, and halberds, making him the undisputed grandmaster of cold weapons. His battle with Huangdi at Zhuolu was absolutely epic. Though he was defeated, in the end, Huangdi even used his portrait to scare people. See this? This is what happens when you dare to defy me. Earning his place through genius skill, fighting, forging weapons, and commanding armies, he firmly holds the throne of military god of war, essentially the combat-focused CEO of the war god realm. After defeating Chiyou and Xing Tian, Huangdi was defied and became a superstar of the ancient world. We might have thought the story would come to a satisfying end, but he had one final surprise twist for later generations. According to the records of the grand historian, Huangdi oversaw a DIY bronze cauldron project at the foot of Mount Jing. As soon as he finished casting the cauldron and it was deemed ready, a delivery dragon suddenly shot down from the sky, turning the moment into a real-life dragon ride. It swooped down, carried him off, and zoomed straight into the clouds. A classic limited edition immortal accession scheme from ancient times. So, does anyone remember Yi Guanzhong, the tomb of Huangdi's clothes and crown we talked about earlier? Actually, this makes perfect sense. After all, he ascended to heaven and became an immortal. So naturally, there's no physical body in the tomb. In fact, when we look at the bigger picture, it's easy to see that Huangdi is also heavily steeped in mythology. Following our earlier framework for classifying San Huang Wudi, the three sovereigns and the five emperors, the three sovereigns are figures of profound mythic significance, closely associated with creation and dawn of civilization. Given that Huangdi is mythologized, why was he not counted among the three sovereigns, but instead placed among the five emperors? There are two main reasons. First, it was influenced by ancient traditional numerological concepts. The ancient highly revered the numbers 3 and 5, believing they represented the order of heaven and earth. 3 corresponded to the 3 powers, heaven, earth, and humanity. 5 corresponded to the 5 elements, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. These were fixed numbers symbolizing the laws of the cosmos. Thus, the system of ancient sage kings became conventionally structured as the 3 sovereigns plus the 5 emperors, with relatively fixed number and arrangement that was not thoroughly altered. Even though Huangdi was deeply mythologized, he was fitted into this established framework and became the first of the 5 emperors. Second, their roles are distinct, and the 5 emperors themselves represent a gradual transition from divine to human figures. The 3 sovereigns are primarily creator gods responsible for the formation of heaven and earth, the dawn of civilization. By contrast, Huangdi's core achievement was the tribes and governing the human realm, making him more of an earthly sage king. The 5 emperors as a group are defined as earthly sage kings, with their divine qualities gradually diminishing. Huangdi is the most mythological, nearly half god, half human, by the time of Zhuanxu and Diku, their divine power fades, and they appear more as tribal leaders with extraordinary abilities. By Yao and Shun, little remains but virtuous character and governing talent. They are fully human. Although Huangdi was divine, he still belonged to the lineage of sage kings who ruled the world, not creator gods who fashioned it. Hence, he was placed among the 5 emperors. This evolutionary pattern, in which the image of rulers gradually shifts from full deities to half-god, half-human figures, and finally to ordinary human kings, is not unique to China. It can also be clearly seen in ancient Greek mythology. In the earliest times, the world was ruled by creator gods, the Titans and the Olympic gods. Possessing immortal bodies and boundless power, they were pure, divine beings, corresponding to the era of creation and the establishment of cosmic order. This was followed by the age of heroes, which saw the rise of demigod kings. Descendants of gods and mortals, they had extraordinary strength, legendary deeds, but were not immortal, making them far closer to human leaders. By the era of city-state civilization, kings in Athens, Mycenae, and elsewhere ruled entirely through wisdom, virtue, and governance ability with no divine attributes whatsoever. Thus, the full transition from god to human was completed.